Hi, I'm Charles J. for BetUS.com, and let's talk about this fight that's taking place on Saturday night. And it's between Manny Pacquiao and Antonio Margarito, and it's for the WBC championship at 154 pounds, taking place at Cowboys Stadium in Arlington, Texas. And on the board at BetUS, Pacquiao is minus 500 and Margarito is plus 350. And if you follow boxing, you kind of know the story about how this fight was set. Originally, it was going to be Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather. They were in negotiations to fight on November the 13th. Well, no, negotiations broke down. And so Pacquiao was faced with the two options, essentially, in terms of any fight that the promoters deemed viable. One of those fights involved Miguel Angel Cotto, who Pacquiao, frankly, had already beaten and beaten pretty decisively. The other fight was Antonio Margarito, who, if you follow boxing, had some baggage that he brought with him to the table, and that involved the incident where his hand wraps were determined to contain plaster of Paris before his fight with Shane Mosley, and for that he got himself a suspension. Well, the fight with Margarito was made, and Margarito got his licensing in the state of Texas, and here we are for this November 13th fight. And Margarito is a guy who comes to fight. He comes forward. He is the quote-unquote warrior in the fight. He's someone with a solid chin. And he's one of those old-fashioned fighters that will dig away at the body, and he's going to be relentless, and he's going to keep coming at you until he chops you down. And that's what he did when he fought Cotto some time back. Pacquiao, obviously the story is well known by now, chronicled a little bit on 60 Minutes this past week. Young man who started his career at 106 pounds, and he's won championships, not in every division all the way up, but he's won championships as he's moved up in weight. And now he is fighting for a 154-pound championship sanctioned by the WBC. This fight has a weight limit of 151 pounds. It's what they call a catch weight. And so he and Margarito will go into the ring on Saturday night. To me, this fight really kind of boils down to something very simple, and that is speed. That will be the operative factor in this fight. And speed is what Manny Pacquiao possesses, but Antonio Margarito just does not. He is not fast on his feet, and he is not fast with his hands. Pacquiao is both of those things. He's really kind of the ideal textbook nightmare for Margarito to face. Now, speed is one of those things that you really can't teach a fighter. You can't go into a training camp and teach a fighter to be fast, to have fast hands, to have fast feet. You can improve reaction time and perhaps reflexes to a certain degree. But those are things that are really more a byproduct of experience, of savvy, more than something that you can instill physically in a fighter. And so Margarito is going up against something that he really doesn't have a defense for. And speed certainly is something that is very hard to defend in a ring. And what I think is going to happen here is that Margarito is going to be very slow to the punch, and he's going to, if Manny Pacquiao was fighting the kind of fight that he should fight, Pacquiao is going to beat him to the punch continuously. And it's going to be a matter of him getting in and getting out, hitting and not being hit. And Margarito is going to become frustrated, and in the business, he's going to start doing what we call sleepwalking. Now, he was able to walk Cotto down when he fought Cotto. And that's because, I think, because Cotto really wasn't a guy that was natural at circling around the ring in boxing. I think he did that mostly because he wanted to avoid as much punishment as he could. But eventually Margarito caught up to him. He was landing some body shots throughout the fight, and he chopped Cotto down late in the bout. I don't think that's the kind of thing that's going to be happening with Pacquiao. Pacquiao, first of all, is a southpaw, and I believe that's problematic for Margarito. He's had trouble with southpaws before. He's lost to a couple of them. Lost to Daniel Santos, lost to Paul Williams. And I will grant you that that Williams was a very tall southpaw, and I think his height probably contributed to the problems that Margarito had. But nonetheless, there are guys who don't really like to fight southpaws, and I think maybe Margarito is one of those guys. Now, if you saw Margarito in that fight with Mosley, you'd see that Mosley's speed was just way too much for him. He couldn't handle it. And, when you're talking about an aging fighter there, you're talking about a fighter in Mosley who was not fast enough to deal with Floyd Mayweather, for example, when those two guys fought earlier this year. And Pacquiao, in his own way, is just as fast as Mayweather is. He's going to present a problem every minute of this fight for Margarito, and I'm going to count on him not to do the stupid thing and to stand there and try to punch with Margarito. If he avoids doing foolish things in the ring, I think that he's going to have the clear advantage, and it's going to have, as I mentioned, that kind of effect on Margarito to where it frustrates him. Now, when I first started to think about this fight, I said, wow, Pacquiao can really come out and overwhelm Margarito with speed. And it could be a knockout like we saw with Pacquiao against Ricky Hatton, who was another guy who didn't have the speed to hang with him in the ring. But really, on second thought, Margarito does have a good chin. He is the naturally bigger man. And I think it'll be a little more difficult for Pacquiao at this higher weight to go in there with knockout power and take this guy out early. Now, it may happen late, but I'm thinking that it's going to go to a decision. Now, at BetUS.com, you can get Pacquiao by decision at plus 300, which means you'll get paid off at 3-to-1 odds. And from my way of thinking, I would rather get the 3-to-1 than lay the 5-to-1 in this fight.